Enemies Within, the birth of the FBI. It began with fear, not of enemies across oceans, but of enemies within. In the early 1900s, America was changing. Factories roared, cities swelled, and millions of immigrants arrived with dreams, and suspicions followed close behind. The nation was young, ambitious, and anxious. Anxious about crime, about radicals, about the unknown. And out of that fear, the FBI was born. The year was 1908. President Theodore Roosevelt sat in the White House, frustrated. The United States had grown into a global power, but its government was nearly blind when it came to law enforcement. There was no national police, no organized system to investigate corruption or crime that crossed state lines. And worse, the Justice Department had to borrow Secret Service agents from the Treasury just to catch criminals. To Roosevelt, this was madness. He wanted something new, a force of educated men trained to follow facts, not politics. But not everyone agreed. When Roosevelt's successor, President William Howard Taft, took office, a quiet bureaucrat named Charles Joseph Bonaparte, a descendant of that Bonaparte, was serving as Attorney General. He shared Roosevelt's belief. The United States needed its own investigators, its own eyes and ears. So in July of 1908, Bonaparte took a single, controversial step. He secretly hired 34 special agents, lawyers, accountants, detectives, to form a small investigative team. No official law allowed it. Congress had even passed legislation forbidding the creation of a secret police. But Bonaparte went ahead anyway. And just like that, with a single memo, the Bureau of Investigation was born. At first, no one outside Washington noticed. The Bureau's early cases were small: land fraud, banking crimes, and corruption in federal offices. But America's fears were growing faster than its laws could keep up. In 1917, the world changed. The Great War dragged the United States onto the global stage, and paranoia followed close behind. German spies, saboteurs, Bolsheviks. The fear of hidden enemies seeped into every American home. And when war ended, a new terror took its place: the Red Scare. Across the country, bombs exploded. Anarchists sent packages to politicians and businessmen. A blast outside the home of Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer shook Washington itself. The Bureau, still young, still untested, suddenly found itself on the front lines of a war for America's soul. Under Palmer's command, the Bureau began what it called the Palmer Raids, a series of nationwide sweeps against radicals and suspected communists. Homes were raided without warrants. Thousands were arrested. Hundreds were deported. In just a few months, the Bureau became powerful, feared even. But it also crossed a line that would haunt it for decades. Then came a new face, a young, ambitious bureaucrat named J. Edgar Hoover. He was only 24 years old when he joined the Bureau during the chaos of the Red Scare. He believed in order, control, and above all, surveillance. Hoover cataloged Americans like files in a drawer. He built index cards for radicals, anarchists, and activists. Names, habits, friends. Nothing escaped his gaze. And when he took over as director in 1924, the Bureau truly became his. He rebranded it as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. He gave it structure, discipline, and purpose. He turned agents into professionals, trained in science, fingerprinting, and forensics. He waged war against gangsters like John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, and Al Capone. In the eyes of the public, the FBI became a symbol of justice, the nation's invisible shield. But beneath the heroism, Hoover built something darker, a private empire. He kept files on politicians, presidents, and citizens alike. He believed that knowledge was power, and power meant survival. For half a century, he ruled in silence, the shadow behind the badge. The story of the FBI is not just about crime or law. It's about what fear can build and what it can destroy. A nation born of liberty created an agency to defend it. But the question has always lingered: how much freedom must be sacrificed in the name of security? From Roosevelt's idealism to Hoover's obsession, the Bureau became a mirror of America itself, a reflection of its hopes, its fears, and its secrets. Even today, that legacy endures. Every file, every case, every headline carries echoes of that first moment in 1908, when one man decided that the greatest threat might not be beyond America's borders, but within them. Because sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones we create ourselves.